And welcome back to Subculture. Well, we are continuing our look at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival right now. We're going to be taking a look at a comedian called Damien Vosk, who's got a single show on called Dolphin Delight. Now, he's just finished another season of another show called Late Night Party Boys. But we're going to talk about Dolphin Delight right now. So welcome to the program, Damien.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, Damien, like I said, you've just wrapped up one show at the comedy festival, Late Night Party Boys, and you're going straight into Dolphin Delight. What's that like doing two shows at a festival like this?
Exhausting. It's flat out exhausting, but sick in the head because I love it.
But how do you actually remember what's for each show? I know your shows are very, very different, but do you have that problem of oh, hang on a minute, that's not for this show, that's for the other show?
Not really, because you switch modes, and Late Night Party Boys do a legally mandated kids show. It's very much like a goofy two-hander sketch show.
Yep.
So you kind of cue each other, and there's a lot of elements of improv and clowning in it. So it changes. Parts of it can change each day depending on the crowd and what's the energy and what's working. So it's more, I guess that one's more intuitive.
Yep.
And the stand-up one is more, just stand-up that I've developed over the last year and few years, and just going around doing gig after gig after gig. And but this one I do want to sort of mix up a bit and have a bit more of that sort of in the moment raw kind of feel it out element too. So I've sort of trying to capture that sort of fun element in that show as well.
Definitely. Now, as I said, you're known for stand-up, improv, and sketch. You said that this show is very raw and very in the moment. Tell us a little bit about that. What's that like? Does that make you more nervous stepping out onto the stage rather than something that's scripted, or do you find that a lot more fun?
It's still very the stand-up show is still very, very much a written, scripted show. But I think having those moments where you can connect with the audience in a different way and have a bit more. I find it more exciting and fun because I guess my background, I started off doing improv, which is obviously different every night, and then when I switched to stand-up and you have your written set, it's it's fun, and then once you've done it for a while and you've worked out the kinks, the 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever you're doing kind of works, and then it kind of just I don't know. I just kind of want that the thrill of winging it, and the higher highs, the lower lows.
Definitely. And
just like an adrenaline junkie, I guess.
And what inspires your comedy? Is it things from everyday life, or what inspires it? And exactly where did the name come from, Dolphin Delight, for this one?
The name, it's just, the everyday life, things in everyday life, observations, things that just I find funny or interesting. Dolphin Delight, weirdly enough, it's the name of a strain of magic truffles.
Okay.
Which is just like magic mushrooms, but stronger.
Yep.
I just thought it was funny. It was named after an animal.
Okay, yeah.
When all the other strains were named after just regions in the world.
Yep.
So yeah, that's sort of where the name comes from. If you type it in, it'll come up with the packaging.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey into comedy. When did this start out for you, and when did you realize that you had the skills that it took to become a comedian?
I didn't realize it when I was a kid, but I already loved comedy then. I just remember watching so much of it. Back when Comedy Central was the number one name in it, and the internet had just sort of become a thing. I remember just downloading 30 gigs of one of those torrent sites of just Comedy Central Presents and just watching them all. And then I sort of was always creative and into acting, and then when I was younger, kind of didn't know what I wanted to do at all, so was actually doing a law degree at Monash and took a year off and just did performing arts and law, which is a weird combo, everyone says, but somehow kind of works. Went to America, did some film and acting, and was in a method acting class, and one of my friends was like, "You're really funny. You gotta try this improv thing." And I went along, and it was like my mind was blown because so a lot of these people at this uni had been doing it for ages, and they were phenomenal. And I did okay, but I was like real jealous of how good they were. I'm like, damn it, how's it possible to be that funny in the moment? And I'm like, there's got to be a trick. It's got to be something to learn skill. They can't just be that naturally hilarious. And then sure enough, I looked it up and had a chat with them. And yeah, it's very much like something the skills like you can learn and develop. So I started doing that, became like a bit of an improv junkie, went to Chicago and studied at Improv Olympic and did which is where like pretty much everyone from Saturday Night Live studies. And then I also did like UCB, Groundlings, all sort of the major improv theatres, drop-ins from like all of those. And then slowly got pushed into stand-up as well, and yeah, I guess the rest is sort of, when you do improv, I guess like the next step after improv is sketch, and because you just want to script the sort of the threads and the premises and things that you come up with, and yeah, so that's how I ended up kind of doing in a triple threat comedy.
What was that like getting up on stage and doing stand-up for the first time? I experienced that just before the lockdowns here in Melbourne, and I was so nervous in the week leading up to it that I almost made myself sick, but then on the night it just felt like everything was right. What was that like for you the first time that you stood up and did stand-up?
Yeah, I was pushed. So I was doing improv, and the person that made me do stand-up was actually one of Adam Hill's joke writers.
Yep.
He was kind of like, you come up with such good ideas, you got to do stand-up. And so he's just like, he pushed me into it, and I'm like, I finally booked one. And it was actually super lovely, and came along and watched the show, watched my bit. And I remember, like, out of my set, I was definitely very nervous for the first gig. Like, you have the butterflies and all that. Performance-wise, I'd done a lot of acting and stuff and theatre, so I wasn't too concerned about the performative style, but like definitely the written stuff. You never know. Like, especially when you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And out of that set, from what I remember, there was like, yeah, 3/4 of it worked, and then there was like a quarter that was like, what was I thinking? But luckily that what was I thinking part was like sandwiched between the parts that worked, so it all kind of felt fine.
Yeah.
So as long as you start strong, finish strong, whatever happens in the middle, hopefully they forget it.
Exactly. And I know for me, I had a few jokes in there that were, what's the right way to put it? It was having a go at the Royals, and I heard a couple of those laughs where it's like people start to laugh and then they stop, and I'm like, uh-oh, what's happened here? And then this lady came up to me afterwards, and I found out that she actually worked at Buckingham Palace, and a few people in the audience knew about that, and she told me that she didn't like my royal jokes, but the rest of it was fine. So yeah, it's fun. It's a funny feeling, isn't it, when you get that kind of half laugh and people stop, like you don't know why it's happening.
Well, I think that what you've just described is a very unique case. Where did you do this gig?
I did it at a stand-up place out in Berwick, of all places, and like I did not expect to have someone there from Buckingham Palace.
The family has ties to Berwick?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it just happened that she was on holidays in Australia and came along on the night because it was a fundraiser. So, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Jesus.
And it was questioning who Prince Harry's dad was. So it was like yeah. But anyway, for listeners out there, if you want to head along and check out Damien's show at the Comedy Festival, it's on from the 17th to the 22nd of April at the Bards of Hefferknee. I hope I've said that right. But you can look it up on the Melbourne International Comedy Festival website. Damien, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along to check out your show?
Well, come along. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of great jokes in there, and also a few little character pieces peppered through just for fun.
Awesome. So once again, everybody, if you want to check out Damien's show, it's called Dolphin Delight. It's on from the 17th to the 22nd of April at Bard's Apothecary. Check out the Melbourne International Comedy Festival website for all those details, and you can buy your tickets on there as well. Damien, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show, and we hope a lot of our listeners will head along and check out your show.
Thank you for having me.